Hello and welcome to Switched On, Paul here, and today I'm going to bring you my pick of the best sports games released on the Nintendo Switch in 2019. Now at number 10 I've picked PBA Bowling from Farsight Studios, which came out in October. With no sign of a Wii Sports remake on the Switch, it's fallen to third parties to plug the gap, and PBA Bowling takes a more realistic sim-like approach to the sport and on the whole works very well. There's a decent and fairly deep career mode, online play, customisation, and although overall the graphics are a little bit substandard, the TV style presentation and limited commentary is quite nice. There are motion controls here too for those wanting that Wii Sports-like experience, and overall I had a fun time reviewing this one for the channel and would definitely recommend it to bowling fans. Next up was a bit of a surprise release in terms of how much content was included and how well it performed technically, and that's Cricket 19 from the team at Big Ant Studios. Released around the time of the Cricket World Cup in the summer, this game features the ability to play as a single player at your local county side in an incredibly deep and lengthy career mode, right up to taking part in the World Cup itself or even an Ashes series between England and Australia. The game also features a ridiculously detailed data editing system, giving you the ability to create teams, players, badges, kits and even new stadiums, also giving you the chance to create scenarios to play out and even share online. Performance-wise, Cricket 19 holds up excellently on the Switch and was absolutely one of my favourite sport experiences of the whole year. At number 8 we have the football hybrid game New Star Manager from New Star Games. Released way back at the start of this year, the mobile port sees you take control of the fictional New Star FC and attempt to lift them from the lower reaches of the football pyramid on the way to becoming a managerial legend. Now the unique thing in New Star Manager is that once you've trained your players, picked the team and sent them out with a flea in their ear, you can then get hands-on in the action. Matches play out with selected events when the action hots up and you get an attempt to attack or defend depending on the situation. The arcade part here doesn't have the depth of a fully fledged action game, but rather plays out like a strategy game, with you having one attempt to plan and execute your limited time on the pitch. It works superbly well and becomes utterly addictive. If you find something like Football Manager a bit too heavy and want some light-hearted fun with a little bit of depth, then this game could be for you. At 7, I'm going with Mario and Sonic at the Olympics, which released in November from Sega. Now whilst I think the official Olympics game, which is also from Sega, is better than this, I'm not going to include it due to its release being limited to Japan until 2020. So for now, in the West we get the more casual spin-off featuring Nintendo and Sega's best mascots. The game features over 20 sport minigames and also includes a limited event retro themed version, which whilst quite not hitting the track and field or hypersports vibes, it's a fun diversion from the main event. Overall, the sports represented here are varied and fun, from the standard track events like the 100 metres, right up to new events for the Olympics next year like karate and surfing. Each is given enough TLC to be worth playing through multiple times. Probably best enjoyed with a few mates around the TV this one, and it will come into its own when the actual games roll around next summer. Now another managerial game next, but this time on 4 wheels as you take control of your own motorsport team in Motorsport Manager from Curve Digital. Released in March of 2019, this, like New Star Manager, is another port of a mobile game with a few extra flourishes specifically for the Switch version. You can choose from sports cars, endurance cars or open wheelers and embark on a multiple season career mode as you work through the ranks to reach the goal of being crowned world champions. Now whilst not licensed, this game does have a really decent editor to allow you to customise the drivers and car liveries, and I've got a few videos on the channel about how to do that, so please check those out. Now unlike a more hands-on management sim like football, there's only so much you can do when managing 2 drivers in a race, so the actual management part is a little bit limited and more focused on the business and development side outside of the race day itself. But that said, I still think they've done a decent job here of making the races fun, and they don't take that long to play through. Overall, I'd say this is a must for racing fans, and I'm really glad we got a port of this one on the system. Now if you're a fan of baseball, then you are well catered for on the Switch this year. I've gone for a long requested port to the Switch, and that is Super Mega Baseball 2 from Metalhead Software, which finally arrived on the Switch in July. A little like the MLB Power Pro series that last saw the light of day over here on the Wii, Super Mega Baseball 2's bright and cartoony looks mask a deep and involving simulation that feels super to play. Running at 60 frames a second, this is a beautiful port and features a deep career mode along with one of the better online offerings we've seen in a sports game to date on the Switch. Whilst there's no official licensing of teams here, the game does feature a comprehensive editor to allow you to create players, kits and new teams to play with in custom leagues, and a really clever dynamic difficulty system called the Ego system allows you to engage in a risk-reward mechanic to get the most out of your game. Just a really nice port, this one, and a sports game that will be played for many years to come on the Switch. Now I've swapped these next 4 around so much that I'd have to say they're all pretty much must-buys for sports fans, and it shows the quality we've had on the Switch. But that's not to say each of them is perfect. In 4th place is this year's FIFA game, FIFA 20 Legacy Edition from EA Sports. Now I debated where to put this on the list due to a major problem with the game, but at the end of the day it is still a brilliant sports game and I'd highly recommend it with that one caveat. Now let's get the big issue out of the way first, and that is that all FIFA 20 is on the Switch is a roster upgrade from FIFA 19, and that's it. There is a thin coat of paint over the UI here for sure, but even EA themselves confirmed in all their pre-release marketing that this was the same game as FIFA 19 on the Switch with no gameplay additions and just featuring the latest team and player data. That also meant no features like the Volta football mode introduced into other versions of the game. They charged pretty much full price for this at the time too, and although it has been on deep discount a couple of times, where I eventually picked it up for around about £20 from the USA store. For some people that will be issue enough to give this a wide berth, and I totally understand that, but if you don't own FIFA 19 already, then FIFA 20 is still an excellent game on merit, and I still marvel how EA even got the content in that they did, running at a near locked 60 frames a second. It is really impressive. So I'm leaving this in the top 4 on merit of it as a game alone, and let you decide if it's worth upgrading from 19.4. And as I said, if you're getting a Switch for Christmas and want a football game, then absolutely FIFA 20 is the game to get. At points I had this game in the top spot, but I think it just has a few too many niggles that need ironing out. Plus it's a pretty niche title, so I've dropped it down to 3. But given the competition, a top 3 place is still brilliant, and that game is Snooker 19 from Ripstone. The Switch have been lacking a really top-drawer Q Sports game, and now finally with this first licensed snooker game in many a year, we have it. Featuring over 120 pros from the Real World Tour, along with a faithful, albeit limited career mode, this one is certainly not lacking in content. A spotty online mode is great when it works, but isn't always stable. Once the balls are on the table though, Snooker 19 does a great job of representing a televised match, with a post-launch patch added in dynamic camera angles and limited commentary doing a decent enough job of conveying the action in the match. The player models are not so great to look at, but again, at least they're there to help immerse yourself in the action against real professionals. But the actual mechanics of playing shots are superb, and I really dig the physics here. And there's a lot of difficulty options to tinker with too. You can make the game as hard as you like, but even on the easiest settings, the game is still a real challenge. Now talking of challenge, the developers have just announced a new paid-for DLC pack which features special challenge modes to complete in, which will be coming to the Switch in the new year and will certainly give this game some additional life for sure. But for a first stab at a new franchise, Snooker 19 is excellent, and I fully look forward to the next entry if they can smooth out some of this game's minor gripes. Another yearly franchise now, and this time it's the next entry in one of the longest running game series around, and that's Football Manager, and specifically Football Manager Touch 20 on the Nintendo Switch. Now this is the 3rd release on the Switch of this franchise, and after I had a bit of a grumble about some of the faults in last year's release, I'm happy to say the game has found its form again and is still a horribly addictive game to lose your life to in the nicest possible way. The use of a controller over a mouse and keyboard is probably the biggest barrier to entry here for most people, but if you don't own a PC, I'd recommend the Switch version as the next best addition to get, as I found the tablet version's touch control a little bit too fiddly. The Switch version does also offer touch control, it should be noted, but due to the smaller screen, the frustrations are even greater here. The so-called touch version is basically a slightly stripped down offering from the full-fat PC game, and allows you to get on with the job of managing your tactics and transfers whilst offloading to the AI or straight up cutting out some of the chaff. The match engine is much improved on the Switch from last year's version, with a smoother experience all round and a slightly new look, and it's most welcome. Overall, a game I will put untold amounts of hours into, and as I say, if you don't own a PC, we should be very grateful to Sega for getting this game onto a console. So this brings us to the number one sports game of 2019, and that is the absolutely mammoth NBA 2K20 from 2K Games. If you play your Switch docked a lot of the time like I do, it's easy to forget how tiny and underpowered the Switch is. But we're also starting to see some incredible ports that push the Switch to its limits, and I would say that NBA 2K fits into that category. It's not without its faults, both technically and also the pretty much universally hated virtual currency system that 2K insist on using to gouge as much money from players as possible. But as a package, the game is incredible. From quite simply the best representation of a televised sporting experience on a console, to fast, realistic sim-based gameplay style and a look that belies the power of the console it's running on, NBA delivers on most fronts. The number of modes is impressive, and each offering up tens or even hundreds of hours of gameplay in each means each 2K release is designed to last you for the full calendar year. The controls are not for the faint-hearted, and it will take dedication and practice to nail them, but once mastered they give you a sense of freedom on the court that is like no other sports game on a Switch. You can tinker with a wealth of settings to customise the game to your liking, and what feels like a living ecosystem bubbles away underneath, delivering live content into the game in the shape of roster updates and news from the real-life NBA. The 2K series is also famed for its story mode, which, okay, can get a bit corny, but again offers an experience like no other sports game on the Switch. So as a package, the game's look, performance, depth, online community and presentation is unparalleled, and again, it's not without its faults, but for me, it represents one of the best value for $60 games you can get on the Switch. So there you are, my pick of the 10 best sports games released in 2019 on the Nintendo Switch. Please let me know below if you disagree with any of my choices, and if you have a sports game you've enjoyed more than any of my 10 here. I would love to hear from you. Stay tuned to the channel for a few more top 10s before the year is out, but for now I will bid you farewell and catch you on the next video. Thanks everyone, bye bye.